Councillor. Hello, good to see you, and thank you very much for spending your valuable time with us for a few minutes this morning on the Stakehill Business Improvement District. It's an important part of the Greater Manchester economy, and in these very challenging times, many businesses on Stakehill have continued to work because there are depots there for people like Parcel Force and Yodel, but also telecoms people. So a lot of essential businesses working on the estate, a lot of people continue to work on the estate. I know that as part of the Greater Manchester spatial strategy around the estate recognises the importance of this area and the potential for an extension to the estate. Have you any ideas when that might happen, Andy?
Well, morning everybody, and it's good to be able to join you and to follow Alan actually from the Greater Manchester level, expressing our support for what you're trying to do with the creation of business improvement. We've certainly got our Manchester combined authority, and obviously we're working with Alan and the Chief Executive and all of Rochdale Council to support you. The plans with regard to possible expansion obviously are included in the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework. So that is the long-term vision for development across the whole of Greater Manchester. And crucial to that document is the aim of trying to bring more development to the north of the city region, and particularly in the area of massive strategic significance and importance where you are. You know, you're fantastically located, and you know, we think that the existing industrial estate, but expanded, linked to the Northern Gateway, is potentially one of the most strategically advantageous locations we can offer as a city region, but actually as a country, to be honest. I think it's of national significance what could be achieved there, building on the existing strengths. So it's at the heart of the document that's gone in, that's going back out shortly for public consultation. So it's been, you know, a challenging document. It always will be to create a planning framework. You know, you'll get a range of views on it. It began in 2016. It's been refined considerably since then, but the plans in this area remain largely unchanged, and it's of huge strategic importance to us. I feel really strongly that you know, we've been in a year of crisis. We're now beginning to emerge from that. It's critical, I think, to Greater Manchester to emerge from the crisis with clarity about where we're going and what we want to do to rebuild prosperity across the city region. And the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework is a massively significant part of that. It is linked to our transport plans. So obviously there are associated transport improvements around the expansion of the industrial estate, particularly the potential for a substantially renewed railway station, but other road infrastructure improvements as well. So that's where we're up to, Ian, to answer your question. It's at the heart of the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework, and that is beginning to go through councils across Greater Manchester for approval. It will go out for a final round of public consultation later this year and into the new year. It then goes on to the Secretary of State and a planning inspector. But you know, we're hoping for this plan to be adopted by 2022. And I think what you're trying to achieve as businesses coming together to get a powerful voice, if you like, for businesses already around Stakehill. I think, you know, as I said at the start, the timing couldn't be better from our point of view. And I know that there's a vote coming, and people will have to decide, you know, what the right thing is. But you know, from our point of view, I think it will make it given your significance as a site of for development, it will obviously make sure that the voices of existing businesses are heard very, very clearly in that process. So I hope that answers the question, Ian, but it's really great to be joining everybody today, to be joining Alan and to be showing our full support for what you're trying to do.
Thank you, Andy. I mean, you picked up on the transport issues, and certainly access has become a key issue for many businesses on the estate. And as Alan was saying earlier, actually it's fine if you've got your own independent transport to get to and from, but I know there are certain businesses that rely particularly on seasonal workers who find it really difficult if they've not got their own transport to get to and from, and bus services particularly, you know, at the moment are totally inadequate to really support the shifts and the people coming in and on. And the spatial strategy doesn't seem to mention anything other than the railway station. And there's actually only one point of access in and out of the estate as well. So in terms of the infrastructure and arrangements for getting people to and from the estate, it is a bit of a challenge at the moment, and an increasing one. If there's more development and more residential, I mean, how is that? Are there any other thoughts about how that's going to be addressed?
Well, it's a fair question, and you're right. There is a plan for a new rail station at Slattox, which obviously is in the TFGM 5-year delivery plan. But there's actually a lot of road improvements proposed as well. So there is a 5-year transport delivery plan alongside the spatial framework. So the answer to all of your questions may not be in the spatial framework itself. 5-year delivery plan.
Right.
But the other thing I would just say, Ian, because you mentioned bus links. What I am, if you were to ask me the single highest priority I have in this role, I would answer it by saying, alongside some of my personal commitments to homelessness and other things, it is the biggest strategic thing I could do for Greater Manchester, in my view. I think is to create a London-style public transport system in the city region. And what I mean by that is, and obviously this is something that Alan and the other leaders have long campaigned for, it's an integrated system that brings bus and tram particularly together so that people can make integrated journeys, and it be ticketed as part of one system with a cap on what people can spend. And you know, you have routes that sort of are complementary, if you like, rather than competitive. At the moment, the public transport, the buses compete with the trams, and what we need is a system that works as a whole. So that is our vision for public transport in Greater Manchester. And you know, that I think would do more than anything to open up sites like Stakehill, but also just make commutes much more doable for people by public transport in a way that they're just not at the moment. So, you know, please do consider the spatial framework alongside the 5-year infrastructure delivery plan, but also the plan for what we call our network, which is the plan to create a London-style integrated single ticketed system across all of Greater Manchester.
Okay, and that would extend out to Slattox Stakehill area as well.
It certainly would. Yeah.
And the timeline on the railway station. Any thoughts on when you would like to think that could happen?
I think it would be linked, obviously, to the timeline for development, because there would be, as far as I understand it, you know, planning gain contributions that would have to be made. But I think you are looking within that 5-year horizon. So it's, you know, it's part of the 5-year delivery plan. So, you know, as I say, you know, this is, in terms of our prioritization, this site and everything around it in this area is kind of, you could argue, priority number one. You know, this is our prime location, because it is both kind of attractive from a connectivity point of view, but it puts serious meaning behind the wish of all of the leaders of Greater Manchester to rebalance development from south to north. You know, this has been a long-held objective. It's often been more talk than delivery. You know, Alan and Sean Fielding, leader of Oldham, Eamon O'Brien, leader of Bury, are always reminding us that, you know, that we need to see delivery on the bringing of quality jobs to the north of Greater Manchester. But that is a core priority of the Greater Manchester spatial framework. So, you know, you are top priority in many ways when it comes to the industrial sites identified within the plan.
And obviously there are some mixed views about the fact that the area to the east and south of Stakehill Industrial Estate is currently greenbelt, and potentially would be turned into employment land. And you talk about trying to address the balance from south to north. Is that part of why some of the greenbelt would need to be considered as employment land? What would you say to those who say, well, actually the greenbelt should be protected? We don't want any more houses or industrial units in this area.
Well, I understand the people who say that, but it's obviously important to balance that with the things that people need: good homes and good jobs. And I think if you look at Rochdale, I mean, Alan will correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Rochdale has a large amount of greenbelt, much more than you would find in a comparable borough elsewhere. And for me, I mean, we are doing our best to protect greenbelt, and actually the existence of the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework protects what you're keeping, because it creates a plan and it stops speculative development of greenbelt, which can happen if you don't. So those greenbelt campaigners often say, vote down Greater Manchester Spatial Framework. Well, actually, to do that would be to leave other greenbelt exposed to speculative development, which wouldn't make sense. What we've done with the plan is minimise the greenbelt take as much as we possibly can. So from when this plan first emerged in 2016 to the plan that is just emerged now, the 2020 version, there's been a reduction of 60% in the greenbelt take. So that's the first thing I would say to those campaigners. The second thing I would say is, if we were only talking about warehousing or distribution in this area, then you could perhaps have a debate then about what's more valuable, to Greater Manchester or indeed to the Rochdale Borough. But we're not. We're talking about jobs in advanced manufacturing. We're talking about potential involvement of the University of Manchester with research and R&D. We are talking high value, future-facing jobs, which are what we desperately need in Greater Manchester. So, in some ways, what I would say to those campaigners is we've minimised the take as much as we can. But this is a site that we are prioritising for high-value employment, and at the end of the day, jobs and homes are what people need more than anything, as well as protecting as much green space as we can.
Yeah. I mean, certainly talking to some of the businesses, well, all the businesses on Stakehill, there's more than half of them are expecting to see growth despite the challenges of the COVID situation over the next 12 months. Some of those are anticipating significant growth. And as you say, some of those businesses are involved in advanced manufacturing, and there's some global brand names and very important names on Stakehill itself. However, besides the access issue, there are challenges for some of the businesses to actually get the right sort of people that they need. I mean, we've got a company there that makes rubber mixing machines, for example, really struggles to get qualified engineers into his company. What can be done to support those businesses getting the right sort of people that they need into Stakehill, besides improving the access issues? But what can be done to sort of improve the pool of skilled, the right skilled people to get into those businesses?
I mean, the access issues are crucial, aren't they? Because what I want to create, just to be clear about this, is a public transport system that is more financially attractive than the car, so that people can take buses and trams as many as they need to in any given day and only spend a certain amount of money, which is what happens in London. Obviously, we don't have that at the moment. And the lack of that system might mean that there are qualified engineers in Bolton or Wigan who might like to come and work over in your part of the world, but would find it very hard from a financial point of view. So clearly we do need that public transport system, but also I think we need a better skills system. So one of the things that we have developed is something called GMAX, Greater Manchester Apprenticeships and Career Service, which I've always intended to be, in some ways, the sort of sister service to UCAS. So you've got UCAS for the university route, and GMAX is intended to be a single portal for work-related opportunities, particularly for those late teenagers, early 20s, people of that age. Not just apprenticeships, but much of the opportunities on there will be apprenticeships, so that we can, so young people growing up in Greater Manchester can see all of what the city region has got to offer. I still think we have a culture within some of our boroughs where people just think about local and they don't necessarily, their horizons are maybe a little limited because they can't see the job opportunities that are slightly further afield. And GMAX is our attempt to open up all of Greater Manchester to the young people who live here, so that companies can, you know, put vacancies on there, and hopefully we can get better at bringing our own talent through. I don't think we do enough to bring our own talent through at the moment. And sometimes young people get quite a negative narrative about, oh, there's no jobs left and, you know, it's all doom and gloom. Well, actually, GMAX is intended to give them a clear line of sight to all of the job opportunities that are available. And hopefully that will help companies like the one you mentioned fill the vacancies that it's got.
So through your experience, a business improvement district on Stakehill, that potentially would help the businesses then start to take advantage of that sort of facility, GMAX?
Well, it would certainly help. I'll just be honest with you, it would certainly help me and the combined authority. And I can only, all I can say is that I've just got to give you my experience of dealing with bids elsewhere. So, you know, I think we've got 4 in Greater Manchester. So there's one in city centre Manchester, and we work with them all of the time, you know, on various things, as you might imagine, because the voice of the city centre businesses needs, you know, particularly now anyway, you know, it's really, really important. Rochdale's got one, but it's been successful in Rochdale at town centre. Stockport as well. If people want to kind of have an example of, well, I'd say both Rochdale and Stockport are both town centres that have got very ambitious plans, and the BID community have been a really important part of those. But then there's a 4th example that I think, again, you know, has done something that is of national significance, and that's the Altrincham BID. So Altrincham as a town, if you might remember, going back a few years ago, was badly hurt by the Trafford Centre when it opened, and it really had a negative impact on Altrincham town centre, and it struggled very much in those sort of late 90s, you know, in the early part of the noughties. But the BID, I think, has been critical actually in turning that around. And it feels to me that a BID, when it works well, it builds that sense of community, and kind of almost one thing leads to another, and you get a sort of cycle of improvement rather than decline, because everyone sort of, if you've got businesses, if everyone's ploughing their own furrow, I think, you know, it's hard to turn a town around or an area around. If everyone is pulling together and sharing, and it's amazing how much it can kind of create a positive energy that turns things around. And it's much easier for us in our position to say, well, what is the voice of Altrincham business? What do you need? And we've got that ability to have that kind of conversation. So in your case, I think the timing is perfect, because, you know, let's say just from a more defending the interests of the existing tenants in this area, there's a job to be done, isn't there, through the development, because you could argue that that might be something that is potentially threatened in some ways by development. Yeah. But actually, I would see it more positively. You know, this is an opportunity for us to have one conversation with you as we put in that infrastructure to support the expanded industrial sites. You know, it's got to be the right thing to do at this moment in time. Although I do appreciate, you know, it's a matter of a vote before people decide. But you know, it can only be in everyone's individual interests, I think, to raise the profile, strengthen the voice, and just make it easier for organisations like mine to respond to the expressed needs of the area. Yeah,
yeah. Just Alan, you've got direct experience of the Rochdale bid. I mean, you've seen it to be of benefit to the relationship between you and the Rochdale Borough Council, and achieving things that perhaps you weren't able to achieve otherwise.
Yeah, and I actually now sit on the bid company, so that the link between the council and the businesses goes well. And I think Andy's expressed it when he says working together, so that people can work together. And certainly in the bid in Rochdale, putting on events it shouldn't just be the council because we're more strapped for money, is 1 + 1 doesn't sometimes equal 2, it equals 2 plus, because you know, the synergy of getting 2 pots of money sometimes creates a 3rd pot of money. So yeah, I'm fully behind this bid thing. I'm fully behind helping anybody increase the prosperity of the borough, because at the end of the day, our 2 biggest sources of income, both under threat at the moment with COVID, are the council tax and business rates. And without a thriving business sector, there. The other thing is that the reason I'm so supportive of GMSF is because Rochdale, I think it's nearly 70% of our housing stock is A and B. So, you know, with the lowest council tax rates. And what we want is the A's and B's to move to C's and D's, the C's and D's to move to E and F's, and the E and F's to move to G and H. Unfortunately, the chance of you moving to a H in the borough of Rochdale is very remote. I think we've got less than 80 of them in the entire borough. That's how our housing stock is structured. And I'm very worried when people say, build here, do that. I want to build on brownfield sites. I don't want to build on greenfield sites. But if we only use brownfield sites, then there would be no economic expansion here in the borough.
Thank you for that, Alan. So Andy, just sort of final words from you in terms of, I know Stakehill as Industrial Estate feel they've sort of almost hidden from view, sort of sit on their own surrounded by these green fields and motorways, but feel, I think sometimes certainly the views expressed from businesses when we've surveyed them is that they feel sort of a little bit sort of left on their own. That there are other industrial estates in the area that sort of perhaps get a bit more attention or profile. What would you say to that?
It's about to change. I think, I mean, I didn't know much about the history, but my briefing note tells me that it was always seen in the 70s, I think, when it was created as a kind of counterbalance to Trafford Park, you know. So I think finally, possibly, that vision is maybe about to come through. You know, I think there's been a long recognition in Greater Manchester that, as I said before, you know, we've got our own north-south divide, and it needs to be rebalanced. So that's why Alan says the Greater Manchester Spatial Framework is critical, and you know, it's not kind of empty promises. You know, if this goes through in its current form, the implication is the infrastructure follows. You know, that is the commitment that's being made here. And, you know, as we come through this difficult year into a better 2021, hopefully, you know, putting sort of party politics to one side, I hope the government is going to come back to levelling up in a very meaningful way. I hope they mean what they say when they say build, 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 and, you know, that they're going to put the infrastructure in. And so from our point of view, if we can land this plan, it puts us in pole position, basically, to take advantage of that kind of need to get the recovery going in all parts of the country. So Greater Manchester as a whole, there is no northern powerhouse without Greater Manchester firing on all cylinders. There just isn't. So I think that's understood in government. So you've got to look at it this way. You're in the prime location within the prime area of the northern powerhouse. And you know, if that doesn't sort of, you know, kind of put you in a strong strategic position, then I honestly don't know what will. So there's unknowns, isn't there? There's unknowns about the virus. There's unknowns about public spending. There's unknowns about the government and the way it will go about the recovery. But all we've got to do is put ourselves in the strongest possible position to make the most of it. So what I've got to do with Alan is get the plan in place. That's what we've got to do. But then I think what you've got to do is then put, you know, all the necessary arrangements in at your end to make sure we're going to make it as easy as possible to work with the businesses in and around Stakehill, and we're ready to go basically for when hopefully funding starts to be made available. So that's what I would, you know, way I would answer your question. You know, I think it is about to change. it will require it, I think, the coming period. And we've got to make recovery mean something. It's got to get going properly. And that's why, I mean, some people have criticised me saying, well, why are we doing a spatial framework when so much is up in the air and we don't know how COVID will affect the economy? We shouldn't be doing this plan now. We should be waiting to see. Well, actually, I think that's the worst thing I could possibly do. The best thing I can do right now is as I say, let's have clarity coming out of this crisis and put Greater Manchester in a position where we're ready to go and get that investment that we know will be out there. So that's the way I would see it, Ian. I hope that makes sense to some of the people people on the call. If you do your bit at your end, we'll do our bit, and then together, this area really will be set for a really strong decade. Thank you very much, Andy. That's really helpful. Can I hand back to Martin, Chair of the Stakehill Steering Group, to close?
Well, thank you very much for that insight, Mayor Burnham and Councillor Brett. Very interesting points, and I think for us now moving forward over the next couple of months is to really keep our engaging with local businesses, and we go to ballot and you'll be receiving a lot more information from us, more information with regards to the plan and our key objectives, our key 3 objectives of what we want to deliver. But we will be in touch before Christmas. I think it's a little bit too early to say Merry Christmas to everyone if we don't see you, but no, thank you very much everyone for your time, and we'll be getting back in touch with anyone individually on any questions that you've got. But no, thank you again, and hopefully we will see you over the next couple of months at the more of our open forum. So thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Andy. Thank you, Alan.
Cheers all.
Cheers.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you, everybody.